My name's Jason Love. I'm from Boulder, Colorado, and I've been a medical cannabis patient for about 5 years now. I use cannabis for my pain and muscle spasms. And I found that about 2 years after my accident, being on heavy narcotics, so opiates of all sorts, I was on tramadol and Neurontin and Vicodin and oxycodone, and the list goes on and on. Over that period of time, I felt like I lost who I was. I was depressed, extremely anxious, I was angry at everything, and really just didn't want to do anything. I didn't perform well at work. And so my life really wasn't where it should have been. The quality of life was unacceptable, really, to me and my family and my friends around me. I found that cannabis really made a huge difference for me. My neurologist and I had a long conversation about 2 years after my accident, and suggested that I try cannabis. And so I started to ingest large amounts of cannabis, large amounts according to the law enforcement later on down the road. But that started to make a huge difference. I was able to decrease my opiate intake and all the other pharmaceuticals. My stomach felt better. I felt clearer in my head. I was able to think. I was able to perform better at work. My appraisals at work got better. And so actually just recently I've stopped taking all of my pain medications. I'm off of oxycodone. I'm off of Vicodin. I'm off of my tramadol, off of my Neurontin. I don't use the patches that I used to use, and so on and so forth. So these last few weeks have been phenomenal for me. I feel like I'm clearer in my head, and I feel like I can move around more. The pain sucks. The muscle spasticity is okay. It's being mitigated by the cannabis. I do feel better. I can function, but I feel like I am able to have a quality of life which is absolutely fantastic. I know it sounds weird, but it almost seems like it's better now than it was before my accident. And I think it's just because I've learned to live with cannabis as my pain mitigator, and it also helps me get to sleep, which is a big deal. I have muscle spasms through the night, and normally can't sleep with that. But it's really worked out for me over the last 3 years. And so for the last 3 years, I'm still trying to figure out what works specifically. What was really exciting for me at this conference, however, is that we see data now that proves that CBDs are very valuable as a cannabinoid, and that THC, we all know, has some value to it medicinally, but it's not the predominant cannabinoid that I need for myself, at least. And so this is just reinforcing my own experience, my anecdotal data, if you will.
Well, me personally, I smoke for my PTSD, my anxiety, my spasms, to eat, again, to take care of my nausea after I eat, and for my pain. So I smoke for 6 different reasons. Pain is my worst one. I always leave it at the end, though. So how does it help me? All 6 of those things I just said. It allows me to lead a normal, active life, whatever the hell normal is in this world anymore. I hold a full-time job. When I get discharged from the hospital, I was discharged with a big bag, garbage bag type things. VA on the front of big blue letters, and they gave me my discharge paper, my T14, and basically, see ya. Come back when they're empty. I was released addicted to every pain med that's known to man. Right now, I am on half of what I was when I came to Peace and Medicine, and that's cutting too. But it takes just as long, if not longer, to get off this stuff as it did to get on this stuff. So it's just something that doctors don't recommend. It's you've got to wean yourself off of this stuff, and it takes a while, especially some of the hard shit that. Well, I didn't just blow my legs off, guys. We'll just put it that way. So, 3/4 of the people I know are on a monthly budget. 1 paycheck away from homelessness. So, you gets into the medicine. I know there's a lot of guys that just can't afford it, who are forced to do their own and take the first 2 years of failure and learn how to do it. So, if you are old enough to go in the military at 17 with parents' consent, old enough at 18 to go to war and make that decision, why are you not old enough to make the decision of how to medicate yourself and stay off of the legal stuff that they're trying to kill us with already? Now, back to that same age limit. if you're 17 or 18, old enough to go into the military, but unfortunately God's smacked you with something that doesn't allow you to go in the military, again, why does there have to be an age limit on a medication? There's no age limit on any other medication, and for something that I personally know helps, works, and gets a man or a woman through life on a daily basis. I smoke sativas so that I can keep going during the day, and keep a dull roar on the pain, and the indicas at night for a good appetite, and so I can try and get, at least 4 or 5 hours of sleep.
Alright, so I'm going to talk about my depression for a little bit. My mom brought me into her work when I was like 5 or 6 years old, and they diagnosed me with ADD and depression. Okay, at 6 years old. And anyway, they put me on Vyvanse, and that didn't work. Then they put me on Ritalin, and then Adderall, and then Adderall started working, and then they upped my dosage. I remember my dosage being to like 75 milligrams. I feel like that's like too much for a child, too much for anyone probably. Any of that is just awful for you. But I remember feeling like a zombie and just like, I can describe it as when you're coming down from a trip and you're just like, wah, 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 wah. That's how I felt every day going to school. And then I just realized that was just not right. And then around like 12, 13 years old, I started dumping in the toilet before going to school, or I would sell it to my friends. And I started smoking pot with my mom at 12, and just occasionally, because I liked that feeling a lot better than taking my medicine. And I just think it's crazy being that young and realizing the difference and knowing that pot was completely natural. And people look down on me today for needing it, but what do you need on a daily basis to cope with your issues? You want to go smoke a cigarette when you're like having a stressful day at work, and that is toxins going through your body. Marijuana has no toxins. You want to go driving and you're texting while driving. That's deadly. You're putting your life at risk, like, doing that. I am not putting my life at risk medicating with my medicine. The deodorant you use has, like, cancerous chemicals, and I don't know, the list goes on and on what you do on a daily basis. And I just smoked a bowl and I am completely happy. A couple hours ago I wanted to just run away because the house is a complete wreck and I'm gonna have to clean it up by myself, and Dylan wouldn't stop crying, and sometimes mom life gets really overwhelming, and I'm 20 years old and my daughter is completely happy and she is so healthy and so funny, and like I love her so much. So I'm gonna continue to naturally medicate and be a great mother, and yeah, bye.
Hello, my name is Steve. I'm a 50-year-old medical marijuana patient. I live here in San Diego, California. Welcome to the boys' room. I get together with my brothers and we live our boys' life in this little area. At the same time, at 50 years old, I can respect my wife, stay out of the living room or whatever with my buddies smoking pot. been smoking pot since I was 15 years old, self-medicating myself for problems I guess I've had since childhood, where I went through therapy for ADHD and bipolar disorder, manic depression. So I would buy pot because I knew when I smoked it, it calmed me down, allowed me to work inside of a frame of mind that was productive. I have arthritis, like I said, ADHD, bipolar disorder. I've taken every antidepressant you can think of. And all of them work to some degree, but they have these horrible side effects. You know, your hair falls out, or your parts of you don't work. Like I said, I've been self-medicating for a long time. I didn't like feeling guilty, and I wanted to be above board, and after the Proposition 215, I guess, came, I decided I wanted to get my license and a referral. And what was nice was how much I discovered once I became above board. The different types of strains that were available to me, the different ways that those things responded to me. The pharmaceutical, I call them really hard drugs. Well, you take those, you either go to sleep or it messes you up. I mean, there's problems metabolically with the way they work for me. Medical marijuana is an opportunity to have a great medicine available to help people cope with the problems they have every day. The advantages of knowing the different strains, just like different medicines. You gotta have a caregiver who understands the dynamic and match it to your symptoms, and that's when it all kind of comes together. Nothing has ever worked for me the same way.
I'm Amy Faywell with MAMA, Mothers Advocating Medical Marijuana for Autism. MAMA's got sort of 3 goals that we're asking for: that medical marijuana would be legal and allow autism as a qualifying condition, that cannabis would be a first line of defense when children have behaviors as opposed to psychotropic drugs, and thirdly, that doctors would learn about the endocannabinoid system. So if a whole plant bill passed here in Texas, and if autism was a qualifying condition in some way, then the next thing would be to start finding doctors that are willing to put the two together and look at what in autism, what is it in autism that cannabis can treat? Because we feel that it can be palliative and curative. It can just sort of calm a child down, but it can also really work on those underlying conditions. Jack has been on very few heavy-duty drugs for a very short amount of time because none of them have worked. You know, they usually just make him worse, which means worse is more aggressive, less focused, more hyper, more self-injurious. And so the problem I have when people say we don't know the long-term effects of cannabis, well, what do you think the long-term effects of all those drugs that you are willing to recommend for my son are? The thing Mama would really like to do in the interim is try to help define a research project where they could, because self-injurious behaviors are also very measurable. You know, you can count how many times did he bite his hand, and you create a study on cannabis. He bites it this many times in this situation, and off of cannabis he bites it this many times. It would be cut and dried. There's a government patent actually on cannabinoids that says it is antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, neuroprotective, it regulates the immune system, it protects the brain from glutamate toxicity. Well, autism is oxidative stress, inflammation of the gut and brain, the immune system is dysregulated, and surely a kid that has a brain that's compromised needs a neuroprotectant. So right there you can just stop and say, this is worth trying for autism. It's got thousands of years of safety. Nobody has ever died of an overdose from cannabis, and it's surely much safer than the drugs that we've been recommended to try with him. There's 20 reasons right now why I should try cannabis with my son, except for the one that is most dangerous, and that it's illegal.